Hey yo, so two things right away that maybe you'll notice is I'm wearing makeup. I don't know why people freak out about that, but I do have makeup and I'm wearing makeup and I have a microphone. So I'm just trying out some different recordings or ways to record and we'll see how that turns out. So knees, and knees. So with working out, especially with aging people, things tend to wear out. And so I want to talk about knees today because one, I get lots of questions about knees and what you should do about them, or if you're having pain, or what kind of workouts are actually safe for the knees, the different kinds of pain and indication, things like that. So I wanted to address knees and talk about that because of my own issues and what I have experience with, and also my clients too. That's the intro. So in this video today, we're going to talk about your knees, what we're going to do about them, and how we are going to address certain issues with your knees. Hey there, my name is Velma Garnes. I'm also known as the Valminator. I teach exclusively low impact workouts with little time, equipment, and space for women over 40. So, the purpose of this is to talk about our knees and what we need to do about them. So, I never really had issues with my knees until I actually did. And I never really noticed them until for me, when my weight got over a certain amount, then I started to really notice them. But when my weight was under a certain amount, I never really thought about them. So it was not an issue for me whatsoever. So weight could be something that maybe you need to be concerned with if you've gained a lot of weight. And that's, of course, more weight that you have to carry on your joints. And so it's going to affect them in that way. The second thing is if you are doing repetitive motion. So if you're doing something repetitive, it could be anything. It could be running. It could be maybe your favorite exercise piece of exercise equipment. It could be likely elliptical. It could be riding a bike, like anything that is repetitive, which is, of course, as you know, something that you do over and over again. So that might be causing pain in your knees. The other thing could be when you are not moving around whatsoever, and then you try to actually participate in activities of daily living. That could be an issue. If you're a weekend warrior, for instance, and you go out on the weekends and you play really hard, you work really hard during the week. So the only time that you really have time and space to be able to go out and do something for yourself that's physical is maybe on the weekends. So you might do like a race on the weekends or something like that. But a lot of non-activity and going right into lots of activity. So that tends to be some of the reasons why you may be having some issues with your knees. So let me start off by talking. Well, I already started off, but let's talk about the structure, the actual structure of your knee. So this is going to be like excruciatingly gross anatomy, but I want to give you an idea what the structure of your knee is going to look like. So this is like your not your meniscus, but yeah, your meniscus. So this is going to look like this. So think about this as an overview, looking down on top of your knee. So there's going to be two structures that are going to look like this, and this is going to, let's say this is the inside of your knee and this is the outside of your knee. So this is going to hold together your bones. Essentially, it's going to be holding together your bones. And then think about your ligament coming up. So let's pretend that this is going to stay open like this. I didn't practice this before I did this. I just tried to come up with like a gross anatomy. So this is your figure eight. It's kind of looking like this. Gross anatomy here. And then you're going to have your ligaments that's going to come up around through the top and the bottom, and it's going to loop just like that. So imagine that. That's how your knee is pretty much structured together. Ligaments, meniscus on either side. Okay. So that's going to be how your knees form. So as you can see, it's already a delicate situation with your knee, right? I mean, there's some other structures in there, but those are the two main structures that are going to be influenced by what I'm going to be talking about today. All right, so it's important that you understand that. I have notes here, so don't freak out because I have notes. And I'm also going to show you a picture of what the knee looks like. All right, so it's important to note that knee problems develop over long periods of time. It's not something that just happens, of course, unless you're in some sort of accident, or unless you fall, or unless something runs into it, or unless you're playing sports. And it's one of those things that's injured. Your knee is probably among the top injuries in any sort of sports. If you're in any sort of sports or activities, it's one of the structures that's of your body that's injured quite frequently. So if especially as you get older over time, your knees are going to start to break down. Things just break down. That's just what happens. My job is to try and keep you as mobile as possible, as safely as possible. So we've already discussed some things that may be causing issues with your knees. One of the things I try to tell people is to go to a professional. I'm an exercise physiologist. You can go to a site. I'm going to name off some things here because I didn't know about this. An orthopedic surgeon, of course, is a person who studies bones. And orthopedic surgeons are doctors who are trained to take care of people with musculoskeletal conditions. And they study things like bone fractures and infections, or metabolic problems, or congenital skeletal malformations. Um, then there's these people, and I did not know this until I did some research about this, are physiatrists, and these are doctors who specialize in physical medical medicine rehabilitation. Physical medicine rehabilitation. These are physiatrists. It is spelled Physitrists. I had to think about that. But they're people who just are well versed in movement. I'm an exercise physiologist. I could certainly help you as well. But if you find movement painful, it is best to go find out what is causing the pain. That's the first place that you should start, if you are able. I think it's always good to talk with a professional, to make sure that you're not making something worse. And I think that's the most important thing. One of the other things I think is really difficult is that you must keep moving. You must keep moving in the capacity that you are able. So, for instance, if you are chair bound and you still have issues with your knees, you can sit and do like leg extensions. You can just point your toes down to the ground and lift it back up, just like with straight legs. But do movement that is accessible to you right now, because that's the only way you're going to get stronger is with more movement. Um, I think that's probably the hardest thing for most people to understand, is that you have to keep moving even with the pain. Of course, after you found out what the pain is coming from, I think that's also very relative. And then you have to continue once you strengthen, because the only way to take the pressure off the knee is to strengthen the muscles that are actually around the knees. So these are going to be your quadriceps, these are going to be your hamstrings, these are going to be your butt muscles, like anything that's going to take the pressure off the knee. It's really important that you strengthen the muscles around the knee. It's going to include your calves and your tibia, the part of the muscle that's on top of the shin. You have to make sure that you are strengthening, doing what you can within your capacity to strengthen those muscles, because it's the only way that you're going to be able to continue to move. So the more you move, the more you're going to continue to move. And I know that I talk about this in so many other videos because maybe we don't know, but your joints are being bathed in something called synovial fluid. So it's really important to nourish your joints with that synovial fluid. And the only way to do that is to continue to move through those joints. So here's three different things. I'm just going to give you a summarization of things that you can do. A, do within your capacity the kind of movements that you can do to be able to strengthen those muscles that are going to take the pressure off of your knees. So continue to move, do what you can within your capacity. Stop repetitive movements. So what you can do is make sure that you are still moving. And it's not that you can't do some of the things that you love to do, but try to mix it up a little bit. So one day, maybe do the elliptical. The next day, maybe do some little bit of running or walk or slogging. I like to call it slogging, where you run slow and you jog. You jog, and then you run fast enough to sort of get your momentum going, and then you sort of slow down when you get out of breath. And I kind of call that slogging, like a slow jog type of movement, if you're capable of doing that. So try to mix up your programs a little bit so that you're not doing the same repetitive motion. Usually, and I'm only addressing the repetitive motion to cardio because it's kind of like that's where we get stuck in our repetitive motion. Is when we're doing various forms of cardio, but it's best to do various forms of cardio so you don't get stuck in one form of movement, repetitive movement. Definitely stay strong by continuing lifting weights, or start lifting weights. That is the number one most important thing that you could possibly do for yourself, is weight training. And I don't think I can stress that enough. It's never too late. You'll feel better instantly. It may take some time to be able to feel less pain in the knees, but it's always good to continue to move and also make sure you are still weight training within your capacity. And also, if it's within your control, try to get your weight down, because that is one of the contributing factors. I know we're in the body positivity and love yourself at any size kind of movement, but being overweight is a huge contributing, no pun intended, but is a contributing factor to knee pain. And I'm mostly speaking from experience, because I've certainly have had that experience. So those are the three things: weight gain, non-movement, too much repetitive movement, and of course weight training. Those are a couple of things that you should make sure that you are on the lookout for. So that's it for this video. If you would like my metabolic meltdown, I have a 14-day in which you have I have a 14-day metabolic meltdown. It is a small version of what I do in my metabolic meltdown membership. There is 14 videos in there. 2 of them are yoga. I do give you a break, but there's a video every single day of an entire workout. If you are interested in that, just look for that link either above, below, beside this video, or at the end of this video. Look for that link. Thank you for being here. Bye!